Hello and welcome back. Today we're offering our first video about the post-classical period. And just like with the classical period, we're going to begin with the networks of exchange. In case you've forgotten, networks of exchange are routes. Usually, sometimes they're called trade routes traditionally, but we say networks of exchange because merchants who traveled along these routes and other people who traveled along these routes exchanged not just goods and money, but also ideas, belief systems, diseases, technologies. All of those things traveled along what are traditionally called trade routes. So we call them networks of exchange to kind of incorporate those other ideas. And the post-classical networks of exchange are possibly even more exciting than the classical networks of exchange, which you remember really did a lot to center our study of the classical period. I hope you remember what this boat here is called. It's a dhow. That special triangular sail allows it to sail against the wind, makes it more maneuverable in different kinds of seas. And dhows, once again, will play an important role in post-classical networks of exchange. So let's get started. We want to look first again here. I hope you remember this map. This is the networks of exchange from the classical period. I think you can probably recognize the Silk Road there in green, or the Indian Ocean Trade Network in blue, or there's the Trans-Saharan in pink, and in light blue, the Mediterranean trade networks. And I think that you'll see, and I'll show you a new map in a second, that as we move to the post-classical period, there's some significant changes just by looking at this map. Wow, look at that. I think that you can pick out lots of things, so I'm not going to do too much with this myself. I'm going to let you do some of that too. This is in Stearns if you want to look at it more closely. But I do want to point out something that's really important. If we look back at this map here, especially if we zoom into this area, we can see this is where everything connected together. And before we talked about how the Roman Empire, being connected to the Mediterranean trade networks, managed to connect to the other trade networks as well. And that was a big advantage to the Roman Empire. And you can see that there are some connections here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 connections in here. And that's where things connected together. But let's look at the same area of this map in the post-classical period. Look how many more connections there are here. Here we have the Indian Ocean Trade Network is connecting here and here. The Trans-Saharan is connecting here, possibly here and here, once again here. This network is much more robust. There's a new possible trade network over here, and so everything is connecting a lot more. And that really changes how we think about networks of exchange in the post-classical period. In the classical period, we had really different trade networks. They were connected, but they had really separate feelings to them. They traded separate goods. They were dealt with by separate people. But in the post-classical period, we begin to see these trade networks connecting together to such a degree that we start to talk about something called the transcontinental network. We start to think about all of these trade networks not as separate trade networks, but as part of a larger trade network, as sections of a transcontinental network of exchange, where ideas, trade goods, diseases, all of those things could travel all the way from modern-day Indonesia, all the way up to Britain, back down, south into Africa, and across, possibly over to Korea. You notice that Beijing is terribly mislabeled on this map. So that's really what we're talking about. And once again, the key part of the trade network is kind of its center, where this web, this web comes together, and that would be this area here. And so the people who control that area are going to be the masters, the dominators of the post-classical period. Because here they can get gold from Africa, they can get spices from the Indian Ocean Trade Network, silk from China, wine from Rome, although they aren't always so much interested in drinking that. And so they can develop incredible economic wealth, economic well-being. But that's not even the best part. The best part is that this area becomes a focus of scholarship. And these scholars are part of the great library in the Abbasid capital of Baghdad during the Abbasid Caliphate, which you may not have heard of, but you will soon, very soon. And the Abbasid Caliphate, which is a great Muslim empire, was not only the center of trade in the world in the post-classical period, but also the center of learning and scholarship. And so you can see that they have paintings showing that. You see all these books up here. And in fact, they really developed paper-making technology, which is invented in China, traveled across the trade networks, the networks of exchange to the Abbasid Empire. They also translated Greek and Roman texts, so ideas coming from the other direction. And that enabled them to do incredible things. For one thing, they made some of the best maps of this period. This map has south at the top, but even so is a very recognizable picture of Eurasia. This is Spain over here, Italy, you can see Italy's boot shape. This is Turkey, the Black Sea, and Saudi Arabia, all very recognizable. This is the north coast of Africa on this map. I think it's from the 12th century. And they also managed to create incredible buildings. This is also on the front of your assignment, and it's the minaret at the Great Mosque of Samarra in Iraq. And so this period is really a period of an intense intellectual growth in the Muslim world and in other parts of the world as well. And you might say that's because of the transcontinental network, because everything is focused in this area. So I hope that introduces you to this term and to the post-classical period. I hope you're excited about it. Please do your best, and I'll see you later.